Hey everybody, this is Demiheals here, and today we've got a look at the Earthrise, Decepticon Pounce, and Wingspan figures, released in a 2-pack, I believe exclusively at Targets here in the States. I'm not too sure otherwise. But these two are a re-release of figures that were released in the Prime Wars trilogy. I forget exactly which subline they were under, but they were a little tricky to get in their initial release, so having them as a re-release under this Cybertronian Villains line is pretty nice. So, the Decepticon clones, originally from G1, these guys are designed to look exactly the same, or mostly the same in robot mode, but have completely different alternate modes. And whereas the Autobot clones were vehicle alternate modes, these guys are animal alternate modes. But let's go ahead and focus on the robot modes first. So, I'm going to be looking at Pounce for the main articulation and such for robot mode, because I personally like he's a little less kibbly. But Wingspan is just as good in terms of total articulation. There are some differences we'll get to. So, for both figures, they've got a pretty nice swivel here at the head. Moves pretty nice. There's no up and down rotation, it's just a swivel, but it's still not too bad. For the shoulders, it is a full rotation, though it is a little tight, and their back kibble will get in the way a little bit, as well as moving out. And technically, both of them do have a little butterfly forward, but that's more for transformation. Oh, sorry, Wingspan. Just knocked him over. Both of them have a swivel at the shoulder, kind of in between shoulder and elbow. They got a really tiny bit of arm there. Elbows are on a ball joint, and there's sadly no other articulation beyond the elbow on the arms. It's just one solid piece. In terms of waist articulation, just kidding, there isn't any. For Pounce, he does have a joint that's kind of left over from Wingspan's transformation. So it's a vestigial thing, but hey, maybe you can find a use for having a split like that that's super ugly. But in terms of actual hip articulation, he can do a full split, he can move back pretty far, and he can move forward pretty far as well. Back is hindered slightly by both of them having a bit of a kibble tail, but it's not too bad. In terms of a thigh swivel, they both do have it. And for Pounce, his knees do go a little bit past 90 actually, and sadly no ankle articulation. For Wingspan, Wingspans stop a little before 90 on the knees, but other than that, it's the same thing. And there is a bit of kibble on the underside of the arms. So, other than that, it's pretty much the same articulation. Now, in terms of any painting and sculpting, these guys aren't super detailed, but then again, they incorporate just about every bit of detail the G1 toys had, while adding some more articulation. So they're pretty nice. Ooh. Now, let's go ahead and get into the transformation for these guys. So, I'm going to start with Pounce, but overall, at least from the torso up, it's a very similar transformation. So, for Pounce, we're going to turn his head around, and that's something I had to kind of figure out because I like trying to learn it without the instructions. And fold up off the back the, don't know if you'd call it a jaguar or puma or whatever it is, but the head of whatever the beast is. Then, turning the forearms, I'm going to rotate the arms forward so that they're facing front, and extend the legs of the beast, the front legs. Then, coming to the hips, for each leg, you're going to rotate it 180. Fold out the hindquarters of the beast, and bend him at the knees. Then, fold back the tail plate, and fold out the tail. And there we have Pounce in his beast mode. For Wingspan, again, starting the same way, swivel the head, and fold out the bird head. Then, folding the arms forward, and making sure that the feet are pointing straight out. You can angle those down as well if you'd like. Then, this is where it changes for Wingspan. For Wingspan, for each leg, go ahead and twist it 90. And then, using those joints I pointed out on Pounce, you're going to swing the entire leg assembly out on both of them. Then there's a tab here on the same joint the arm was on. That's going to tab into a little hole in the knee joint. And that tabs in. Then you can fold out the wing. It's the same thing on the other side. So tabbing it in and folding the wing out, then making sure you have the tail feathers folded down. And then we have Pounce and Wingspan in their beast modes. Personally, I like Pounce a little more, just because I've never been the biggest fan of bird transformers. It's just not one of my particular favorites. But beast modes tend to be pretty nice. So, in terms of articulation for him, you can technically get a little bit of an upward bend on the head, but that's borderline, like, just retransforming him, so I'm not sure if that counts. The legs are in a full swivel, or I'm not sure if you'd call that a swivel, but it rotates around like that. And then there's a little joint in the middle of the leg. Then for the rear legs, the knees work as a joint, though you want to be a little careful with that, otherwise it's just obvious it's a robot kicking back. And then there is a joint that those hind legs swung out on. And technically, there is a plate here that fills in the gap, so you could have the legs extended out further, and judging on the photo on the box itself, that's the way it's intended. But I think it looks a little cleaner the other way, so it doesn't just look like, oh, it's a robot laying on its side with a couple purple extensions on it. It kind of helps tidy it up, in my opinion, but this does work as well. For Wingspan, the clawed feet are on a little bit of a joint there, to sort of allow him to be angled as you display him, or he can be straight down. Sadly, there isn't any port or anything to plug him into a stand on the bottom, so I'm not really sure if there's any way of showing him in flight, but other than that, it's not too bad of a figure. But these two, I believe were on the Legends class back when that was a thing in the Prime Wars trilogy, which has since been taken out from the War for Cybertron trilogy. But seeing these two brought back, especially made a whole lot more accessible than they were, is very nice. I'm just hoping that they'll potentially release the Autobot clones as well. I know that these are kind of just because of the Cybertronian villains line, but I'm hoping that they release the Autobot clones to go with these. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I am experimenting a little bit with trying to find different ways of filming this, if you noticed from the past couple ones. So if you like this look of it, let me know. If you liked one of the previous ones, let me know as well. I'm sort of figuring this out as I go. And we've got a lot more to go through, because if you see, I'm going to be a little unprofessional and lift the camera. We've got a lot of figures just in this back display anyways. Can't guarantee we'll go through them all, but we'll definitely hit some highlights. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and of course, have a great rest of your day, everybody. Bye!